WSB.
Hey, Shelley, this is Governor Brian Kemp. Whether it's for 3 hours a night or 2, you keep up the good fight and keep telling the full story. Always good chatting with you. Chop on, my brother.
Hey, everybody. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones here, encouraging you to listen to my good friend, Shelley Winters, on his new 2-hour time slot. I know that's not a lot of time to be with Shelley, but if there's anybody who can get us the most relevant news of the day on WSB, it's our good friend, Shelley Winters.
Hi, Shelley.
I talked to you yesterday.
Good. You are fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. A great host. Show is great to listen to his show.
Absolutely, 95.5.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shelley Winters Show, ladies and gentlemen. Live, local, topical, and relevant. And we are on fire right now. Monday, I couldn't wait to get back to you. My God, you take off a couple days. It's easy to say, hey, I'm going to take off Thursday and Friday. July 4th is on a Thursday. I'm going to take off Thursday and Friday and go just see the family and do some stuff with the family. And then you're away and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get back. And we've got so much to talk about. Joining us at 7:36, we're going to be talking to Carolyn Bordeaux. She wrote a great op-ed, former congresswoman here in Georgia, and she wrote an op-ed in the AJC calling for Biden to step down. We got a chance to talk to her. We're going to play that for you at 7:36. But I want to start off here. Project 2025. This is a psyop if I've ever seen one. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But I've got to say this. We've got to start here. So you know what happened at the debate? We were on the air during the debate. We saw what happened. All of us, millions and millions and millions of people saw right before our very eyes this guy, Joe Biden. So that night it came out. Everyone came out. Oh, my God, we've got to do something, right? We heard it. We were sitting right here. If you were listening to me, you heard it. And so we were sitting right. We're sitting right here. And so then the next day, some people, Joe Scarborough famously comes back and changes his mind, and he says he needs to stay, and I guess the White House got to him. But people were just lining up. And so we went into the weekend, then we went into the holiday weekend. And so here we are. And now there's a list of Democrats. First, it was a just started off as a small number. Now, Jerry Nadler, Adam Smith, Mark Takano, Joe Morell, Jim Hines, Zoe Lufgren, Dan Bayer, Rick Larson, voiced concerns. Angie Craig, a Minnesota Democrat, called Biden a good man, but advised that he step aside for the next generation of leadership. Mike Quigley of Illinois, Seth Moulton of Massachusetts, Raul Grijalva, Lloyd Doggett, Stephen King, of all people, a meathead, Rob Reiner, Tim Ryan, Johanna Maska, Andrew Yang, Julian Castro, Senator John Tester, Representative Susan Wild, Governor Maura Healey of Massachusetts, Representative Jared Huffman of California, Melissa DeRosa, former aide to Governor Cuomo, Peter Welch of Vermont, Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator. People, Jim Clyburn said, and I quote, he would support Harris as his party's 2024 presidential nominee if Biden, quote, ain't there. And this guy's fighting. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, fair enough. If I'm Joe Biden, I'm fighting too. I'm not just going to go quietly in the night. I've been fighting all my life. This is a guy that came from a scrappy background, or at least that's how he tells the story. And he's been fighting all his life, fighting to get the respect of the people at the top, fighting to get the respect of the elites. Now he's one of them. Vice president, longtime senator, now president. He's going to fight, and I don't blame him. You would fight too. Dementia or not, you would fight. Do you know how long it took me to convince my mom, God rest her soul, that she couldn't drive anymore? My mom, who the doctor said, ma'am, you have onset dementia. You have mild Alzheimer's and onset dementia. The doctors diagnosed her. We had her in a hospital for that for 45 days, where the doctors looked at her and tested her and went through everything, and they told her. And she would tell me all the time, I'm not sick. The doctors don't know what they're talking about. All the time. Nothing's wrong with me, Shelley. Okay, Mommy. Nothing's wrong with me, Shelley, just like Joe Biden's doing. Nothing's wrong with me. I can fight. But he goes this past weekend, he goes to rallies, and he flubs his lines. He goes on a Black Talk radio station. I'll get to this. I want to talk about that. I will get to that. But he goes on Milwaukee, goes to Milwaukee, goes to a black station, goes to Pennsylvania, goes to a black station in Philadelphia, flubs those lines, knows the questions because they sent the campaign, sent the questions to the coast, flubs the lines of the questions you already know the answers to because they told you, here's a question she's going to ask you. Okay. You still mess up. So the whole point of this holiday weekend was for this guy to shore up support and let the people know there's nothing wrong with me. I just had a bad night. And he makes it worse. Here's what I don't understand, my friends. In 2017, I will never, ever forget this. It is seared in my brain like it happened yesterday. When Donald Trump won in 2016 in November, starting in late November, early December, cable news outlets like MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post all started talking about we need to use the 25th Amendment to get rid of Donald Trump because he's clearly not there mentally. That's what they said. There were think pieces, editorials. Use the 25th Amendment. And understand this, my friends. This is what the most important part of what I'm getting ready to tell you. This man hadn't even sworn an oath on the Bible yet. He hadn't had an inauguration yet. He hadn't passed the first piece of legislation. He hadn't met with any foreign dignitaries, nothing. All he did was win an election. And these people literally went out there and started talking to psychiatrists and psychologists, and they all said, we see a mental decline on Donald Trump. The 25th Amendment must be used. Now you have clear evidence of a sitting president who's losing it. We've said it. We said it for 2.5 years. Eric Erickson's talked about it. Von Hesser Doctrine, their whole show, they've talked about it. I've talked about it. Conservative media's talked about it. And what did they tell us when we talked about it? What, this guy's clearly declining mentally. Oh, that's a right-wing talking point. Now everybody sees it for themselves, and they're defending the guy. You call for the 25th Amendment with seriousness and gravitas when a guy got elected. Hadn't even done anything. Now you have a guy that's sitting there. You see he's mentally not there anymore as he used to be. You see the decline, and you're saying he should stay, except for these people I just named. That's why they're saying it. They're brave to say it. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I end with this. This is why the media has no trust factor. This is why people who are in the media are losing the trust or lost the trust of the American people. It started to decline during the Trump years because people who were just independent voters, people who just had nothing to do with politics, they saw, wow, you're going after this guy every day. Now you have a guy that's there and you're defending him. You're saying he should stay. There's nothing wrong with him. And the thing that bothers me, and I didn't know the answer to this until I gave it a lot of thought, and I talked to a good friend of mine, Garrison Douglas, who's head of comms for the Governor Kemp. I had a good conversation with the young man earlier today, and it occurred to me in having this conversation. There's one group of people who will not leave Joe Biden for anything, and that's the African-American community. Everybody else, I just named a bunch of names, senators, congresspeople, former congresspeople, aides, who are saying he's got to step down. But there's one group of people, the Congressional Black Caucus and their voters, who are standing with Joe. I'm riding with Biden. I'm standing with Joe. And I couldn't understand why. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why. It's fascinating as to the reason why. Shelley Winter Show, 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. We'll be right back.